Out there collecting nectar. And when they're collecting nectar, and this is a good picture of a honeybee because they have two sacs on their last legs into which they put pollen. And so that's their pollen sacs because they're taking that back because they use it to make bee bread that is a food for them. And you can see that their hairs are all covered with pollen too, and they'll brush that into their sacs. So they're going to have 3 weeks when they go out and visit the flowers. They make 10 trips a day, an hour each. How about that? Can you imagine the energy it takes? Sometimes the flowers are real close, like we have 2 hives out here and there are lots of flowers real close. Sometimes they have to go really far away. Okay, and there's a way that they communicate to other bees. There are 2 different kinds of dances they do. But after that, after those last 3 weeks of their life, they're just worn out and they die. So that's it. And we already went through the drone life, which we decided wasn't so great. And the queen is just in the cell laying 1,000 eggs a day.
1,000 eggs a day.
Until she dies, which could be in 2 or 3 years.
Oh.
Yes. But, and now we'll just go back and say, why do we care? Okay.
That's what our son just texted. Why should we care about the birds and the bees, he said.
Well, pick what you like. Do you like raspberries or blackberries,
Yep.
blueberries, apples? You might vegetables, maybe even. All of those crops are pollinated by pollinators, which means bees. There are 416 species of bees in New York State.
Wow.
There are 10,000 species of bees in North America. There are 20,000 species of bees in the world.
Do they crossbreed?
No. But there are only 7 kinds of honeybees, and here we only have, in New York State, we only have one, the honeybee that actually came from Europe. So the reason we care that the pollinator numbers are way down is because they are so important to growing crops.
Why are they down?
They are down for 2 main, there has been a colony collapse, and we don't know why, but hives are just dying or going off and swarming and dying, and we don't know why, and that's been very serious. Some beekeepers have lost 50% of their hives or 75% of their hives, and they don't know why. They don't know what's causing this. Now that's for the honeybee. But for all these other pollinators, and that includes butterflies, which are also pollinators, why are they down? It's because of 2 reasons. Loss of habitat and use of herbicides and pesticides. And genetically modified crops like corn and soy have been modified so they are not killed by nicotinoid herbicides, which are made by Monsanto. It's called Roundup. So when they're growing that genetically modified corn and soy, they spray the crops with Roundup, and it kills everything. It kills every other plant there. It used to be that wildflowers grew up among the crops, and that would be something that the pollinators could feed on. The other thing is, we used to have the edges of roads that had wildflowers and milkweed for the monarch and so on. But where there's agribusiness, those edges are disappearing. They want to plant everything. So there's no place for the pollinators are trying to feed themselves. They don't really think in terms of they're working for us to pollinate the foods we like to eat. They're just trying to feed themselves, and they need that nectar to feed themselves, and the pollen, which a lot of them also eat.
So you would think that farmers who grow these crops
those genetically modified crops are in the Midwest. And they are, but Monsanto hasn't given up. So what can you do? Good question. That was my first slide. Said, okay, what can we do? You have to get involved, write your congressman, organize, ask your cities and towns not to use as much pesticide, ask them not to mow along the edge of roads so those wildflowers can grow, so pollinators can find food, launch a movement. I mean, monarchs are pretty sexy, so they have gotten a lot of press, but I'm not so sure that anything has really happened that has saved them. And all the pollinators are in the same situation.
How about just planting more milkweed plants in your yard?
That is very nice. Where do you live?
Well,
We can't.
we live in Racket Lake.
Where are you thinking of?
Oh, here. Well, up here we could, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that would be great.